The day had been ordinary until the moment I saw it, the silver watch glimmering faintly in the afternoon light. It was lying on the coffee table as if it had always belonged there. But I knew every scratch on that watch, every line engraved into its back. It had belonged to my late husband, Daniel. He never took it off while he was alive, and after his death, I had tucked it carefully into a small box inside my dresser, wrapped in velvet, as though protecting the memory of him. My heart thudded heavily. That watch wasn't supposed to be here. And yet, there it was, circling the wrist of Aaron, the young man who had been living in our house for the past few months. Aaron wasn't family by blood. He was the son of Daniel's closest friend, left adrift after a storm of tragedies. He had no place to go, and in my loneliness I had opened my doors to him. He was polite, gentle, and carried himself with a quiet humility that made it easy to forget he wasn't really part of my home. But now, as I stared at the watch gleaming on his wrist, the air between us shifted. "Aaron," I whispered, my throat dry, "where did you get that?" He froze, his eyes flickering with unease. Slowly, almost reluctantly, he slipped the watch off his wrist and set it on the table. I found it in the drawer upstairs," he admitted softly. "I didn't mean any harm. I just wanted to feel close to him. To your husband." The weight of his words struck me. He wasn't stealing. He wasn't careless. He was yearning for a connection, to a man he admired but never truly got to know. My chest tightened, torn between grief and something else, something fragile but alive that had been stirring since he came into my home. I sank into the sofa, my fingers trembling as I picked up the watch. The cool metal pressed against my palm, carrying me back to memories of Daniel's laughter, his steady hands, his love. But when I looked up, my gaze met Aaron's. His eyes weren't those of a thief. They were those of someone who understood loss, who carried his own unspoken scars. For weeks afterward, the watch became a silent presence between us. Sometimes I would find it back in its box, untouched. Other times I'd catch Aaron wearing it while sitting on the porch, lost in thought. Instead of anger, I found myself drawn to the way he respected it, the way he held it like something sacred. One evening, the sky painted itself in shades of gold and rose as the sun dipped behind the horizon. I found Aaron sitting outside, the watch glinting against his skin. I joined him, and for a long time we said nothing. The air was soft, filled with crickets and the faint scent of jasmine. "You remind me of him sometimes," I murmured, surprising myself with the confession. Aaron's head turned sharply, his expression unreadable. "I could never replace him," he said quickly. "I didn't say you could," I replied gently. "But maybe that's not what I need." He looked at me then, really looked at me, as if searching for something buried beneath my words. My heart ached, but not with the old grief. It was something new, something tender and hesitant. Nights grew longer, conversations deeper. He told me about his father, about the weight of expectations and the loneliness that followed him everywhere. I told him about Daniel, about the silence in the house after his passing, about how I thought I'd never feel alive again. Somehow we began to fill those silences for each other. One stormy night, thunder rattled the windows, and the electricity flickered out. We lit candles, their soft glow casting warm shadows on the walls. Rain hammered against the roof, and the world outside felt distant, irrelevant. I was making tea when Aaron stepped into the kitchen. His hair was damp from running out to bring in the laundry, his shirt clinging to him. He looked younger in that moment but also stronger, like someone carrying the weight of two lives and still standing tall. "You didn't have to do that," I said, smiling faintly. "I couldn't let it all get ruined," he answered, setting down the basket. His gaze lingered on me a second too long, and suddenly the air shifted. The silence between us wasn't empty anymore. It was charged, trembling with unspoken words. When I reached for the teapot, my hand brushed his. I felt the jolt all the way to my chest. His eyes met mine, wide and uncertain, yet unwilling to pull away. We didn't speak. We didn't need to. From that night, something fragile yet undeniable began to bloom. It wasn't rushed, wasn't reckless. It was slow, like dawn breaking after a long night. A hand brushing mine when I set down a plate. A lingering glance across the dinner table. Laughter returning to a house that had forgotten its sound. The watch remained a part of it all. Sometimes he wore it, sometimes he didn't. But I stopped seeing it as a relic of the past and started seeing it as a bridge. Something that connected Daniel's memory with the possibility of a new tomorrow. There were nights I cried, still mourning the love I lost. But there were also nights I smiled, realizing love doesn't end. It transforms, reshapes, finds ways to survive in new hearts. One evening, months later, Aaron placed the watch in my hand. "This belongs to you," he said softly. I closed my fingers over it and shook my head. "No, belongs to us now. To the future we're building." And in his eyes I saw not just the reflection of the man I had lost, but the promise of a man who was here, alive, real, and willing to walk beside me through the chapters still unwritten. For the first time in years, the house no longer felt empty. Felt like home,